Pastor Bruno BOAZ, one of Congo. My initiation into Chinese martial arts occultism. I was born in Baydalite, Mabutu province, and my father was the chef to Mabutu's second wife, Mrs Ngama. My father was previously a bank staff in the National Bank. My father wanted us to be healthy and fit, so he hired a Chinese master to train us in martial arts at home so that we could also defend ourselves. Unfortunately, sports, even football today, is leading people in the wrong direction because many people end up in the occult because of the search for success. There were many Chinese people in my local province. They came under the Mabutu regime to do agriculture and construction. They also opened many martial arts training classes and many dojos, rooms or halls in which judo and other martial arts are practiced. My father hired Master Yang to come to our house every evening to train all the family in martial arts. After training for a while, I became close to Master Yang, so he began to take me to his training school and dojo. So besides training at home, I was also training in his dojo. After many months of training, I became a master. Master Yang then said I should reach a level where if he is not there, I should replace him in his dojo. One day Master Yang told me that the only thing that their Chinese ancestors left them as heritage is martial arts, which are about fitness but not for fighting. But in case there is a fight, it is their ancestors who fight for them. Master Yang told me that I should make a covenant with him so that I came to be integrated into the Chinese ethnic, so that in case of a fight their Chinese ancestors who are ancient masters will intervene and fight in my stead. The covenant was that my blood and his blood should be mixed with wine. Then I should drink it. And he should drink as well. Then the covenant would be sealed. Now, this is a blood covenant. And we did just that. After that he did incisions on every movable joint of my body. The covenant was sealed. He also showed me his incisions when he entered into a covenant with Chinese ancestors. After my covenant with him was sealed, Master Yang said that he had to travel to China for 3 days only. He came back with a mystic Chinese calabash. Master Yang gave me that Chinese calabash and he said, every time there is a fight, you must consult the Chinese ancestors through this calabash and they will appear physically and explain to you what will happen in the fight in advance. 1. If they think that you will lose the fight, they will advise that they should be allowed to take over right from the beginning to preserve their dignity as you are their disciple now. Besides that, Master Yang explained to me how to do ritual, incantation, and the conjuring of the Chinese ancestors who were martial artists. Now Master Yang told me that I should test my covenant with the ancestors. After he explained to me the incantation and conjuring procedure, he sent me to a room for practice. After I did some conjuring as he prescribed, a Chinese ancient master appeared. He said, "You can talk to me in any language. I am here to help. Our purpose is that martial arts expand so that we can have more disciples. We were happy the day you entered into a covenant with us and we were there in the shadow. I am gonna give you a sign so that every time before you fight, you will make that sign and then we will intervene. Every time you make that sign we will come. We will either observe or fight. So every time I had to fight I will go first to consult the ancestors by invocation through that calabash. They will appear physically and will advise me about what to do." The sign was touching the hip. Many martial artists touch their hips without consequence, because they are not in the covenant, but as I was in the covenant, if I do it, the Chinese masters would appear. They will stand and observe the fight unless I give them authorization, they will not get involved. Master Yang said I needed a confidant in my family to explain to her about my covenant with the Chinese ancestors and that the confidant will carry my calabash while I am fighting. Otherwise, I will lose. He told me that my mother was chosen to be this confidant. I decided to talk to my mum. I explained to her all things. She agreed, and every time I was fighting, she was supposed to hold the calabash. Now to get the Chinese ancestors to fight in my stead, there were two scenarios. The first is that I will have to clap my hands twice. Then my spirit will leave my body and stand aside as an observer. Then the Chinese ancient master or ancestor will enter my body and possess it completely, and they will fight in my place. The people around, including my opponent, will be completely unaware of all this. Now, this is the first method. But in the second scenario, instead of my spirit leaving my body and me being possessed by a Chinese master, what happens is that I will disappear completely and the Chinese master will replace me and fight in my stead. Now in this scenario, my opponent will see the Chinese master instead of me, but the people watching us fighting will see me fighting. To know the Chinese ancestors who were fighting for me were the creators of the martial arts discipline I was practicing. Something happened to my master Yang. He was deported back to China. Now, what happened is Master Yang with the Chinese diaspora were doing agriculture and they had a lot of lands. Some indisciplined members of the armed forces came to create trouble on the Chinese land. This brought about conflict and fighting between the Chinese and the Congolese soldiers. As a result, many Chinese were repatriated, including Master Yang. One day I was supposed to fight. I got my calabash out in the living room to consult the Chinese ancestors. I put it on the table and I went to my bedroom to put on the uniform to get blessed by the ancestors. While I was putting on my uniform, my brother came into the living room and was curious about my Chinese calabash and was about to touch it when 5 Chinese martial arts ancestors appeared and started to beat him. Fortunately for him, he shouted, and when I heard him, I rushed out and I signaled to the Chinese masters to let him go and to return inside the calabash, and they did so. Now my brother went out running. I followed him and I tried to calm him down. I warned him that if he spoke about what he saw, he will become crazy. Then he calmed down. I asked Mummy to take care of him. She did, but because he was beaten by these masters, he got sick. When he went to the hospital, the doctors noticed the beating. They asked him about it. They thought he came out of torture, but he kept quiet about it. After the expulsion of the Chinese nationals, including my master, by President Mobutu, I continued to compete and I was winning. As a result, my notoriety was spreading in the region. Later a master heard about my exploits in martial arts and he traveled to meet me. Then we met. And we got acquainted. We talked and agreed about the transfer and exchange of power. I was supposed to transmit to him my power and he also agreed to give me his power. When he came to me, he said, I heard about you as you have become notorious. I am a master and I have disciples, but I came so that you can connect me to the power of your mystical order. He said to me, I know about your mystical order and I know that there is power in that order. That is why I came for an exchange of power. He said to me, I am a professional competitor. I believe with your power, I can be notorious and stronger. I said, I am okay with that. In fact, my Chinese master was always telling me that their objective was to take Chinese martial arts around the world. He was always telling me that in case you find someone interested in Chinese martial arts, do not hesitate to connect him to his ancestors. 3When I got in Chinese occultism, I made a blood covenant with Master Yang. When I agreed to initiate this fellow martial arts master, we had to make a blood covenant as well, which we did. Then I transmitted him my power. After the blood covenant and the transmission of power, I gave him the mystical calabash for invocation and conjuring. I had 2 powers. The first power was that when I was fighting or in combat, an ancient Chinese master or ancestor or divinity was indwelling my body upon invocation or conjuring, and he was fighting my opponent by using my body. The second power was that during the combat, I was literally disappearing and an ancient Chinese ancestor or divinity was replacing me and was fighting my opponent who was able to see him, but the spectators were seeing me instead of him. So when I initiated this fellow master, I gave him one power, which was that upon hand clapping or invocation, he could disappear and an ancient Chinese divinity was to replace him. But I did not want to give him the other capacity to be indwelled by the Chinese divinities for fear of him defying me later. Because I remember after being initiated by Master Yang, he said, "We are now equal. We cannot fight because no one will win or defeat the other." I wanted to be on top, so I hid the second power in case one day he defies me so that I can use it against him. It was now the turn of my fellow master to transfer to me his power. He told me that he was initiated in the cemetery. Therefore we arranged an appointment to meet in the cemetery at night. Actually, his power as a martial arts fighter was that when he was in combat, if you punch him, you will feel the pain instead of him feeling it. You will be the one feeling the pain. So as we agreed, we went to the cemetery at midnight for the ritual. From midnight to 2 a.m. there was conjuring. Then a 14-year-old girl who died many years ago appeared. I was supposed to sleep with her, which I did. While all this was happening, the cemetery guards were aware of the ritual because they are occultists in most cases. The reality of occultism is such that when you are in, you will always want more power. Therefore you would be willing to do more sacrifices. You can be asked to sleep with your own daughter or your own mother. It can be even worse than that. That is why, brothers and sisters, you should never envy people in power or celebrities, as you will not accept the condition and sacrifices imposed upon them for power and money. In my case, the Chinese master told me that my mother would be the holder of my power even if she was not part of the agreement that I personally signed in. I was told if she refuses, I will either die or turn mad, but she accepted that responsibility. For beloved, this 14-year-old girl was a servant spirit or siren from the cemetery world, because there is a world in the cemetery. When she appeared, she said to me, "I am giving you a white handkerchief which will enable you to win." Then she pulled it out from her private parts. She gave it to me. The siren said to me, "This is the condition you will have to observe. Every month you will sleep with a woman in her menstrual cycle." Then I asked the siren, "How am I going to know that a woman is in her menstrual cycle or not?" The siren gave me the name of a Catholic monk in the city, including his details. She said, "When you meet him, tell him that I am the one who sent you." So every month I was supposed to sleep with a woman in her menstrual cycle, and every time I was doing that, the kingdom of darkness was capturing the woman's conception ability in her womb was sacrificed. Later when I met the Catholic monk, he asked me, "How did you happen to meet the siren?" I said, "I am a martial arts competitor and I wanted more power for combat, so I was in the initiation process with my fellow fighter." The monk said, "Well, I knew the siren because of the Catholic priesthood. We meet often and she gives me direction and guidance in terms of priesthood and ceremonies." What confirmed to me that this Catholic priest was in the occult is that he was holding a white handkerchief similar to the one given to me by the siren. Even in his service in the Mass, he always holds it. Later he told me that he is the representative of this siren in our region. He promised that he will equip me so that I can be stronger than the fellow martial artist who initiated me at the cemetery. Then the priest gave me a mirror allowing me to determine whether a woman is in her menstrual cycle or not. This mirror was functioning as an advanced computer system. I could bewitch a woman with the mirror's ray of light. Once I determined that a woman is in her cycle, I was using the same mirror to film her or capture her image, which was automatically saved in the system. This mystical mirror was generating information and data about the target that is being filmed. After capturing the image of the targeted woman, I was transporting it and placing it on my altar, in the middle of the 12 candles for incantation. Actually, the Catholic monk showed me a lot of stuff, including building an altar for conjuring and incantation in my room. The priest told me that after sleeping with a woman, I had to dump her because her image and her conception are already captured. I was not to sleep with a woman twice. Every time I captured the image of a woman in her menstrual cycle, I was doing incantation with it. As a result, it was transferred to the kingdom of darkness for manipulation, and as a consequence, there would be problems for her in courtship as the woman was bewitched. 5 Later the Catholic monk took me to a native doctor who gave me the power to be like a robot. I mean, when I was fighting a competitor, every time he punches me, he would have the impression of punching a man with a metallic body. You can watch American wrestling and you will notice it when a wrestler has this power, you can hit him with whatever you want, it is as if he is not feeling the pain. To activate the metallic body, I just had to scratch my hair during combat. This power came to add up to the Chinese power. This monk was in conflict with his vicar who wanted to take his place, and this vicar was connected to a high-level native doctor. Later the vicar attacked the monk with sickness, but the Chinese ancient masters intervened and they managed to remove it, and in retaliation, we sent a thunder against him. But as he was advanced in red magic, he knew and was warned in advance about our attack. In fact, he was barricaded and he counterattacked. Actually, he redirected the thunder against me and the monk. I was unaware of his attack. I was at school when suddenly I was surrounded by Chinese masters or divinities. When I saw them, I was in a panic because I knew there was a problem. I remember when I was signing the pact with Master Yang, he told me that if I am in danger, they will intervene even if I am unaware of the danger. So when they surrounded me, a few seconds later, thunder hit the area and 2 of the Chinese divinities were hit. They got their backs burned by the thunder. They were assisted by the others, and before they disappeared, they saluted me. It is like they came to take the hit in my place. After this thunderclap, the school was adjourned and the students were told to go home. When I came back home, the ancient Chinese masters told me, the vicar that I was fighting with the monk is much more powerful than all of us. Later the vicar who was advanced in the occult managed to kill the monk. I remember we were all at the funeral in the mass that the vicar was celebrating. I was so angry that I ordered a Chinese master to hit him, which he did, and the vicar fell on the ground around the monk's coffin. In that church, this confirmed the people's suspicions that he was responsible for the death of the monk. After the funeral, I gave the Chinese masters the injunction of mistreating him. In the end, he abandoned the parish and ran away. The gods and the ancestors of the Han people. One day I was supposed to compete against a popular master and champion. He was called Master Laron. He was a strong master. He was also competing in other countries like Rwanda and Eastern African countries. 6He was an experienced fighter, and he was in a mystical order ruled by ancient Korean ancestors and divinities. When he was concentrated, he was able to take all the hit and he was not feeling anything whatsoever. This technique was called Iron Man. You can hit him as many times as you want, he won't feel anything. I was in preparation. It was 4 days before the match against him when suddenly I received the visit of one of the ancient Chinese great master, a powerful divinity. He said to me that we should meet at the local river at 1 a.m. He said to me that there is no point competing in this match because your opponent was trained by ancient Korean masters. Their power and that of us are equal, therefore there won't be a winner. The ancient Chinese masters said to me that they talked to the ancient Korean masters and divinities and came to an agreement that both sides should not intervene in this fight and that the competitors should use their natural skills. The Chinese divinity said to me that the problem is that Master Laron is strong physically and much more experienced, and that without their assistance I would lose. Therefore he proposed to teach me 3 new techniques from 1 a.m. up to the morning. He said that it takes weeks to learn it physically, but as we are learning it spiritually by using the astral body, it will take hours. Firstly, I was taught Master Laurent's technique called the Man of Steel. I was also taught a new technique called Eagle Claws. The Chinese divinity also taught me a technique called Iron Hand, with which I could neutralize Master Laurent's technique of the Man of Steel. After I learned these 3 new techniques, the Great Master told me that they will be there in the match, but they won't intervene in my favor. I will have to use my own ability as a fighter, including the new techniques. Then it happened that in the wake of this contest, Master Laurent abandoned the fight. People were angry as they paid their money already to see the match. Actually, Master Laurent was informed by the ancient Korean masters that I was taught his technique, including 2 new techniques that were superior, and that he was going to lose the fight if he competes. After learning this, he made that decision, although people paid for the match and they were unhappy. A master challenge. Later on, another fighter came into the city. I was told that when he is fighting he becomes heavier, like an elephant, although he is thin. When he came to the city, he heard about me. He started looking for a way to fight me, although in martial arts, they teach us discipline and self-control. 7 But like I said, in the spirit realm when 2 initiates meet, the first instinct is that they seek to test each other's power. So he was desperate to see me in action and he was defying me, but I was ignoring him. Then one day he came to disturb my course while we were in the classroom. I lost my temper and I punched him. As a result, he was on the ground. The school director was not happy and he came to shout at me and I floored him with a punch. The thing is, when I was angry, I was unconscious. I was unaware of what was happening because my body was completely inhabited and taken over by the spirits of the ancient Chinese divinities. But thank God, my girlfriend got my mother to come to calm me down. My mother was touching my hair to calm me down. As a result, I was able to regain consciousness. A crucial intervention of the Chinese ancestors in my coming to Christ. But the news of this altercation reached the ears of the late President Mobutu as we were living in the same village. Then he sent a colonel well known in the family, as my father used to work as a chef in a Mobutu's household in the past. When the colonel came, I hesitated, but my parents insisted that I should go willingly instead of becoming a fugitive. My mother encouraged me to go. Then the colonel took me to the Mobutu residence of Kali. When I arrived there, he told the colonel to give us some time to talk. Then Mobutu asked me about the incident in our local college. I explained to him what happened in detail, how I was provoked by that master. Then he said to me that eyewitnesses and experts confirmed to him that I was not fighting with normal human strength. They said I was using extra human strength because I took on the whole school alone. Then I told the president my story, how I was initiated in Chinese occultism, and how I am assisted by Chinese ancient masters and divinities. Then Mobutu said, "As you are sitting there, are these Chinese divinities with you?" I said, "Yes, if I call them, they will come." The president then asked me to prove to him that I am working with Chinese ancestors. Then I commanded a Chinese master to move a flower pot from where it was placed to another place. We watched as the flower pot was moving from one place to another. Then the president asked me, "How come I don't see them?" I replied, "It is because you are not in covenant with them." Mobutu was convinced that I was a mystic. Then he asked, "Is it possible that you order the Chinese master to attack me?" I replied, "I can't do that as you are our father." 8 Beloved, like I said before, when 2 mystics meet, they will always try to test one another. As I was sitting with Mobutu, I could feel a very strange power in that chair. I don't know what he has done to it. I was sweating and trembling because of the power generated from the chair that I sat on. Then the president asked me to order the Chinese master to put back the flower pot where it was, which I did. Then he said, "Boy, congrats, you have made some progress." Then I saw the president heading to a window. Then suddenly I realized that I was shirtless. My shirt was flung away from my body by the side. I was afraid. I thought he was not happy or may be threatened by my power. I thought he would kill me because everybody knew how powerful he was. Then Mobutu said, "Go. Get your shirt." I stood up to get my shirt, but every time I was trying to get it, it was moving away. I tried 3 times but I was unable to. I said to the president, "Father, I am okay to go home like this." Then he said to me, "Take it now. It's okay." Then I managed to take my shirt, and before I left, he said to me, "I want you to be by my side. I will make you a man." Then he gave me gifts and money and I left. But at 11 p.m., the colonel came back. He said, "The president needs you. He wants you to accompany him in the Lower Congo province." So I joined the president in residence that night. When I went to see him, he received me and we were supposed to board a canoe, and when we did, it was a journey in a speed of thought. We did not move but we teleported to a new location. We moved from our province to Lower Congo in a split second and we landed in a river there, where the president's medium lives. When we arrived at the medium's place, the president said to me, "I brought you here so that you may know that you are a child." When I heard these words from the mouth of the president, I understood that Mobutu was not happy about my demonstration of power. I felt that something bad might happen to me in this place. Then the president said to his medium that he is hungry and he wants to eat something. Beloved, I saw the medium taking a seed of plantain and he planted that seed on the ground, and in a split second, a plantain tree grew up and it produced plantains in a second. Then the medium got some and cooked for the president. Then the medium said to me, "You are here to learn so that you can teach the others." Then the medium and I traveled to the river source, and when we arrived, I noticed that there was a cemetery around this source. The medium said to me, "You will just observe what will happen here. Don't say anything." 9th and he started doing incantation in that cemetery. As a result, almost 90% of the deads buried there rose from their graves. After the appearance of these deads, the medium then asked me, "Why did you test the president?" I was surprised by this question and I replied that I did not test the president. He asked me to demonstrate my ability, which I did. I said I could not lie to the president. I told the truth about the college incident and my covenant with the Chinese ancient masters. Then the medium said to me, "You are not going back to the world of the living. You are staying here in the cemetery forever." Beloved, when I heard this, I knew that I was finished. I was quiet and in extreme distress. I knew that I have reached the end of the road. Then the medium asked the deads who were standing there in that cemetery, "Who wants to take his appearance and replace him in the world of the livings?" I saw all of the deads lifting their hands in anticipation, hoping to replace me in the world of the livings. Then the medium asked me, "Do you want to stay in the cemetery or go home?" I was quiet. I was not responding to his question. Then I remember the word of Master Yang on the day of my initiation. He said, "In whatever situation you find yourself, just call the ancient masters. They will intervene." Then I called upon the ancient Chinese masters. Actually, I always walk around with 6 Chinese masters and the Great Master, but when I called on them in this situation, hundreds of them landed between me and the president's medium. I was a meter away from the medium, but when the ancient masters showed up, I noticed in a split second, I was in a distance of many meters away from the medium as these masters positioned themselves between him and me. In a split second, I was translated and I landed thousands of kilometers away in my house in the Equator province. The medium was left with the ancient masters there in the lower Congo province. I don't know what happened between them. But as this was an escape from the president and his medium, I was not comfortable anymore. I knew that I was in danger. Then the following day in the morning, the colonel from the president came to look for me. He said to me that President Mobutu wants to see me. Beloved, Jesus Christ is love, because the moment the Chinese masters saved me from the medium in the cemetery, at that very same moment in the night, the Lord Jesus spoke to a man of God in the village. He said to him that I am in danger and I am gonna die unless I come to him. 10 I told the colonel waiting in the compound and outside the house, let me change my clothes. I am coming back. Then I entered the house. I went out by the back door and I climbed the wall of our compound and ran away. But later on the same day, the Protestant pastor who got the message from the Lord Jesus Christ came to my house and left a message for me. But when he came to my place, I was not there. My father was wondering and asking me, why are you avoiding the president who wants to see you? Don't you know you are putting us in danger? But I could not tell my father the truth because it is only my mother who knew about my occultism. Later I moved place. I was in hiding and no one at home knew where I was hiding. In the meantime, the colonel was coming regularly and the pastor was also coming to look for me. It was clear that the president wanted to kill me and the pastor's message was authentic. I was in a dilemma. I said to myself, if I am alive, it is because of the intervention of the Chinese masters and divinities. On the other hand, this pastor is sending me a message to come to Jesus, otherwise, I will die. I also had the option of responding to the president's invitation. I said to myself, if I respond to the president's invitation, I feel I would die. If I abandon the Chinese divinities, can the pastor and his Jesus protect me against President Mobutu? There was no easy move for me. But as Jesus was warning me through this pastor that I would die unless I come to him, I sensed that the pastor's option was more credible because I had not seen the Chinese master dealing with bullets yet. I was not sure. I was still considering all the options while hiding. Then the pastor got a revelation about the place of my hiding. He came and was walking in that street, and while I was inside, I felt an instinct telling me to go out of the house where I was hiding, and coincidentally we finally met. Then the pastor said to me, I was not in peace. I had to meet you because your life is in danger. There is no doubt that the president wants to kill you, but the fact that I am here is proof that Jesus Christ is on your side and he is already involved. As a consequence, you will not die, but you have to make the decision to follow Jesus. The pastor reassured me that Jesus will protect me against Mobutu and his medium. Actually, the pastor said, Jesus can destroy Mobutu and his medium. They are nothing. After hearing the word of the pastor, I was reassured and convinced. So I confessed my covenant with the Chinese ancient masters and divinities. Then the pastor said I will need to get rid of the calabash of power kept by my mother. The pastor insisted that the key in my deliverance is that I must bring out all the tools and instruments given to me by Master Yang, the Catholic priest and the siren in the cemetery, and I had to confess everything. 11 Next, my visit to hell and heaven and my deliverance. 12.